This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Oh, hello there. Very nice to meet you.
Well, let's get back to it.
Texts and tweets and stuff from like, oh, hello there, so nice to meet you. He used to be the Defence Secretary, can you believe that?
No.
Shut up and go away. Some texts and tweets and such from last night. Masood texts, hey Nick, why are you not the Prime Minister of the UK? Well, that is an excellent question. They change them so often lately. I suppose if I just sit here long enough, eventually I will become the Prime Minister of the UK. But at the moment, it's because my trousers reach my shoes.
This government...
As opposed to this government's current leader, in which case that's not the case. In which case, that's not the case. Yeah, some sentence with those words, but not all of them, and not in that order. Also, I am able to dress myself before I leave the house.
Yeah. Wait a minute.
And I'm not absolutely bat crazy.
Absolutely.
That's the reason I'm not the Prime Minister of the UK at the moment. This text says, one of the reasons there are more disabled people of working age is because the government has moved the retirement age. Some people would have been disabled pensioners. They're now being classed as disabled working age people. Yeah, they keep moving the goalposts. Not for themselves, of course, but for everybody else. Ian says, as Dave is now in the Lords, he won't face questions in the Commons. Convenient, yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of questions to ask.
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, many of which he would think is nonsense. Many of which he would just like to brush under the Chinese rug. Ed says, Nick, the Tories really shouldn't be getting tough with first and second-born children who spend years lazing about on child benefits. Really should be, not shouldn't be, should be. Nick, the Tories really should get tough with first and second-born children who spend years lazing about on child benefits. Britain's chimneys won't sweep themselves. Ain't that right, Smug?
My view
is that is correct. I'd like to see him on that show where they get him to eat bugs. I'd actually watch that if he was dragooned into being on that show. Wouldn't that be great? Doreen says, Nick, it's my birthday. I'm 21. Great show. Great show. Doreen is trying to ingratiate herself in my good books in order to hear this. Yeah, I'm no mug. I'm going to play that for you. James said, these are texts and tweets from last night. How many more have I got? Oh, only... And already they're coming in from today. Why can't these people just leave me alone? James says, I'd happily have an electricity pylon in my garden and a post office counter in my lounge if there's no longer space for them at the back of the W.H. Smith. It's my patriotic duty to keep the power on and the post moving. Well done, the Tories, for exciting new ways of doing stuff. Yeah, they're going to give you, what is it, £1,000 if you have a pylon in the middle of your living room. Yeah, they're just going to, they'll insert it through your roof and it'll be sitting there in the middle of your living room. You'll be able to see your television if you peer around it. £1,000 of free money. That's all it takes. This says, can you please point me in the direction of your bad God Save the Queen sound effect? I need it to share on the right-wing Morlock Facebook sites that blight my feed. Don't you just love the smell of frying gammon in the morning? It smells like victory. I have no idea what that is about. What's a right-wing Morlock Facebook site? Don't tell me. I don't want to know. It's probably something about gaming, isn't it?
Boring.
Oh, come on, kids. Get your faces out of your screens. Look up once in a while. There's an HD world in 8K and surround sound all around you. Try it. You might like it. And Stan in Hull says, I thought my party was paying bills and keeping afloat. Thanks to Rishi for reminding me that my party is actually a handful of people coming across on small boats. Thanks for the heads up, Rishi.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
Stop the boats.
And at the same time, I think people know that I'm relentlessly
focused on stopping the boats. Yes.
And I'm relentlessly focused on stopping the boats. That's one of my 5 priorities. Stopping the boats. I think people know that I'm working
day
night
and
day
to
stop the boats.
Day.
I firmly believe that that's what the country wants me to do.
isn't.
That's what the government is committed to doing, and we're working night and day to stop the boats. That's what the country wants us to focus on, and I will keep at it.
Yeah, he's giving it 110%.
I am totally 100% on it.
Just 100%, apparently. That's all we're worth. He's 100% on it, and he's working day and night. He keeps saying that, but he's lying about that. He is not working day and night. That is completely untrue. I don't have any inside information in that regard, but I am prepared to put my life on the line. I bet you my life that he is not working day and night on stopping the boats or any other bloomin' thing. Apart from adding to his cashmere hoodie collection. I hear they've got a new chartreuse colour. Right, shall we start with Liz Truss? Oh, my God. Liz Truss this week backed the plan to tear up workers' rights, freeze the minimum wage and attack paid holidays. Yeah. I got this from the Mirror, by the way, and apparently the Mirror, the Mirror's owner, are having a bit of a mare at the moment. They ain't making no money. I mean, that might be over-egging it a little bit, but one of the papers, which I suppose if it was in another paper, then they're a direct competitor, and they might be talking up their demise. But they were saying that, you know, one of the reasons is that they haven't really concentrated on the digital product. Because kids might be surprised about this, but you used to be able to buy a newspaper that was made of paper. Can you believe that? No. Yeah. And eventually you won't be able to buy one no more, and you will miss them when they're gone. Because the beauty, I was mentioning this last week, briefly in passing, on and on and on and on and on, that the beauty of a newspaper is that you know where it ends. Same with a book. You know where it ends. So there is, you know where it's the completion of your dalliance with it is. It doesn't go on forever, like the internet, which creates a certain tension. It's there's no. I'm trying to think of another word for completion, but I can't think of one right now. There's no end to the internet. It just goes on and on and on and on and on. You sit there scrolling from now until the end of time, but you can't do that with a newspaper because you know where it finishes. So it's a beautiful thing. And eventually there won't be any anymore. And the Mirror is having a bit of a hard time. And one of the reasons is that they haven't really concentrated on their digital product. And you can tell that by trying to read a news story on the Mirror's website. It's virtually impossible. They just make it so hard. I mean, I had to try really, really hard to read this story in the Mirror without picking up my computer and throwing it out the window. Just try putting the ads at the top or the bottom of the story for crying out loud, not after every blooming sentence. Might be a good idea. Anyway, it's not that I'm complaining or anything.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Liz Truss this week backed the plan to tear up workers' rights, freeze the minimum wage and attack paid holidays. And I'm reading it out of the Mirror because I would assume that the Mirror would not approve of such a plan, whereas the right-wing press would be, on their feet, giving her a round of applause, a standing ovation. The former Prime Minister, she used to be the Prime Minister of this country. Can you believe that?
No.
The former Prime Minister, the Lizbot, hailed a 101-page report from the Growth Commission, which authors claimed would fire up the authors claimed would fire up the economy, as in set it aflame. Speaking exclusively to the Mirror, the Lizbot said, "I think it's a very important exposition of what needs to happen to grow the British economy." I mean, who could possibly find fault with that? A growing, a very important exposition, she said. Economic geniuses with only the best interests of the poor at heart want to make the poor poorer in order to get the economy moving so the rich can make more money. That's it. I'll sum that up for you. Liz Truss launched the Growth Commission in July, 9 months after her 49-day premiership came crashing down following her disastrous mini-budget that included £45 billion of unfunded tax cuts and sent mortgage rates spiralling. Yeah, thanks a lot, Liz.
Thank you.
A person who, in the blink and you missed it period in charge of the country, caused so much damage that if we were a car, the insurance company would have claimed that this entire country was a write-off. And that person is now promoting herself as an expert on growth. People were tasked with drawing up plans to overhaul the economy, focusing on supply-side measures such as ripping up red tape, improving infrastructure and making it easier for people to find jobs. That's the little plan. That's the scheme. Three points. Supply-side measures such as ripping up red tape, improving infrastructure and making it easier for people to find jobs. Well, let's break that down, shall we? Ripping up red tape means getting rid of the protections that we take for granted as consumers and workers, so that corporations and the super-rich can pretty much do whatever they want. Improving infrastructure? Well, I don't know what infrastructure they're talking about, but based on everything that the Trust bot has ever said or done, it's not going to do us any favours. And as for making it easier for people to find jobs, it'll be something like taking the benefits from people in need so that they'll starve if they don't crawl out of their front door to do some menial minimum wage job on top of the menial minimum wage job that they're already doing. Is that about right, Liz?
Absolutely.
Yep, that's about it. The Liz Truss Growth... Well, you try saying it. I'm a professional, and I can't do it. The Liz Truss Growth Commission published a report that lashed out at a host of employees' protections. This person is off the scale. The balance between labour protections and voluntary exchange in the provision of labour services is more restrictive in the UK than is optimal, says the report. Optimal for who? It says returning the UK to a better balance would unlock significant amounts of GDP per capita, which I think means that executives and shareholders will make more money if they can get their workers to toil for as near to nothing as possible. And which benefits did this report have its eye on taking from you? Well, nothing much, just paid annual leave, notice period for redundancy dismissal, severance pay for redundancy dismissal, and the minimum wage. These are areas to tackle. They think that the minimum wage is not minimum enough. I mean, seriously, why is anybody paying attention to this person? We appreciate the effort, Liz, but you have frightened us enough. I mean, if it could only be funnier if they were at the same time as saying that the poor get too much, if they were also saying that the rich aren't getting enough. In other news, that is exactly what they're saying.
What?
Yeah, the Growth Commission study also called for income tax cuts for the highest earners, greater rail privatisation, it's not private enough, and welfare reform, as in less of it, particularly around sickness benefits. Don't get sick. Not only will they take your sick pay, but you also won't be able to be seen by the NHS, because if this way of thinking wins out, there won't be any NHS.
Oh, no.
And for what benefit? Well, the Growth Commission insisted that implementing all of its measures would deliver 23% more growth by 2043, handing every Briton £11,300 each, or per household 26 grand. You see? These people are only interested in the rest of us sharing in the growth that they're promising. £26,000 for each household. And if you believe that the wealth created by this lot will be distributed to the workers who are making that wealth, then I have a house in Iceland I'd like to sell you. And who else is in on this? Well, of course, Jacob Smug. He was there for the launch. And of course, that melting candle and negotiating expert David Frost. He was there too. And if they and the Lizbot all stay in the same place, they'll be easier to avoid. Or catch. Quick, somebody get a net before they drift apart.
LBC with Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Hot H-O-T-A-I-R.
Text and such from last night. Rose emails, Rwanda was always about removing human rights and getting nearer to an autocratic state. Judges being enemies of the people is part of it too, and a loss of protective environmental legislation, and replacing medical assessments for disabled claimants with the government's unqualified contractors. Yeah, who's going to be doing all these this million-odd medical assessments for the people that are going to get chucked out into the street if they don't take a job? Who's going to be doing all that? Don't tell me Serco. One of those. There's like about 2 or 3 names that just keep coming up over and over and over again. Daryl from Hove says, it's not just the return of the living Dave. Also back is Esther McVeigh in a new role as Minister Against Woke. Did you hear that Smug?
My view.
He said that... he said that, and then he said that, it's I can't remember the exact phrase that he used, it's a bit antediluvian, or some such silly word, that the government is now handing out roles that are basically non-jobs with silly titles. Esther McVeigh is the Minister Against Woke. Jacob Rees-Mogg, remember, used to be the Minister for Discovering Brexit Opportunities. Did you find any?
I don't know anything.
No, he's still looking. 0345 6060 973. Northwich. Hello, David.
Hello, yeah. I'm a bit concerned about what you just said about Esther McVeigh.
Concerned?
Well, you seem to be making fun of the position of Minister for Anti-Woke.
And that makes you concerned?
Well...
How concerned are you on a scale of 1 to 10?
10.
Where 10 is not concerned at all.
Well, it'd be 1 then.
I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to take your first response.
Well, everybody in this country is fed up with wokeness.
Everybody? What, you mean you? Well,
I speak for the majority of the silent population.
Yeah, the silent majority seems to be a very, very vocal minority. I think that's what you mean.
It's about time that we had a minister who's going to tackle this major cancer in society of wokeness.
It's a cancer. It's going to kill us. It's metastasizing. I had no idea. Right, what do you mean by wokeness?
Well, everybody knows what wokeness means.
No, well, I'm asking you, David. What do you mean by it?
Well, you can see it everywhere, can't you?
Well, I can't right now. I can't see any woke in this particular room.
Go out in the street and you can see woke people everywhere.
What, in Northwich? I seriously doubt that.
Well, what's wrong with Northwich?
It's a woke desert.
Well, no, there's woke people everywhere in Northwich, I can tell you.
Right. Okay, I'll play along and I'll ask one last time. What do you mean by woke?
Well, do you want a specific example of wokeness?
Well, what do you think the question, what do you mean by woke, means?
Okay, I'll answer that question then. I was in Greg's the other day.
Yeah, minding your own affairs.
Yeah. And there was someone in front of me, and you could tell he were woke straight away. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, they're definitely woke.
He ordered the vegan.
He offered the vegan sausage roll.
Falafel burger. Yeah.
No, he ordered a vegan sausage roll.
Yeah.
And I just thought, well, is that what we've come to in this country now?
Well, it's what we've come to in Greg's.
You know what I mean?
No.
A vegan sausage roll.
Yeah,
really?
Vegan sausage roll. Yeah.
I mean, is that what we've got to put with now? I had to walk out, to be honest.
Really? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you left there, and I can't wait for you to leave here. But the best of luck with your next effort, David. I think he's all out of material. Okay. Thanks a lot, mate. He's one of the anti-wokey-cokies.
Okie dokie.
Martin emails, when AI takes over from humans, will we be able to vote for the AI party as they might empathise more with people than the Tories? A robot empathising more than the Tories?
Affirmative.
Yeah, that sounds likely. Mark in Norwich. That Mark? Was that guy called Mark? I don't know. I don't listen to this show. Too woke. Mark in Norwich says, for many years, men were allowed to vote, but women were not. We never did try it the other way round, so couldn't we do that now? Then we can go down the pub instead of voting. Well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's give it a go. I mean, it couldn't be any worse than what we got now. Heston. Hello, Isaac.
Hello.
Isaac.
Yes. Oh, Nick. Hello.
Yes, Isaac. Right. Let me say it one more time.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Liz Truss, right. I'm listening to the show. Great show. Love it to bits. Okay.
But.
And I'm sitting in front of my computer, and on my Kindle app, I have got the book called Britannia Unchained.
Oh,
right?
no.
Global lessons for growth and prosperity, right?
Yeah.
And the authors are Kwasi Kwarteng, Priti Patel,
yes.
Dominic Raab.
My name's Dominic Raab, and I'm a Tory.
Yeah, I believe you, Dominic. I totally believe you, Dominic.
And Elizabeth Truss.
Elizabeth Truss.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely, yeah. And, right, so let's scroll over to the contents page. Here we go, contents. Chapter 1.
Using poor people as kindling. Is that the name of it?
Exactly. Chapter 2, A Tale of Two Nations. Chapter 3, Revenge of the Gig. Chapter 4, Work Ethic. Chapter 5, Buccaneers.
Okay, all right. You don't have to go through it all. I understand. If only it was the real live paper edition, you could use it to start a fire.
Well, I've bought that as well, so I've got both of them.
You actually went out and bought that with money?
Yes,
how much?
I did, yeah. How much did it cost me? I think the printed version was it $5.99? I've got to
$5.99?
What?
Of money?
I've got to check my Amazon account. But anyway, let me sum everything up as far as this book's concerned.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll sum it up for you before you sum it up. Poor people should have made the conscious decision to be born to rich parents, but they didn't, so they get nothing.
Well, that's one summary. That's definitely one summary. My summary is, we have to be poor for them to be rich. And at the moment, we're not poor enough.
Not enough.
To make them rich.
Correct.
Simple.
Yeah. Right. and I'll sum up your summary. Yeah, that's about the it of it. All right, thanks a lot, Isaac. It was a book report. Clive tweets, "Hi Nick, I can confirm it's a gorgeous warm day here in Sydney, so off to the beach once you've updated me on all the important issues," says Clive. Yeah, thanks a lot, Clive, but we don't wish to know that. This text says, "It's a good job that Brexit rid Britain of being governed by unelected officials with no mandate." Yeah. Yes, that's right. What happened to that, you Brexiteers? Ricky tweets, "Hey, Ricky, you're so fine, you blow my mind, Ricky." He tweets, or she, sexist. Actually, it's spelled R-I-K-K-I-E, which doesn't sound right. If it was R-I-K-K-I, then Ricky would be a stripper. But with an E on the end, I've got absolutely no idea. Anyway, he, she or it tweets, "Imagine living on an island surrounded by water where it rains literally every single day and we don't own any of it." Yeah. Imagine living in a country that's stupid enough to sell all of its water as a monopoly to private enterprise. Good job we don't live anywhere that stupid. I mean, has any country ever been that stupid? Hard to credit. If you find out, then please let me know straight away. And this text, this is the last from last night. It says, "Just a theory, but could the market testing, just a theory, but could they be market testing all their nasty ideas well in advance of the election? Then, once the campaign kicks off, they can put together a best-of package of the nasties which best resonate with the electorate." That's a pretty good theory, actually, because I was pontificating yesterday that they're throwing all their good stuff too early. I mean, last week we had the taking the tents from the homeless people, which was pretty good nastiness. You get maximum thumbs up for that, because it occupied our minds for at least a week, and people were hyperventilating, and then it didn't happen. Apart from, a few isolated incidents. Didn't become government policy. They said that it was going to, and then it didn't. And now this week, of course, it's taking benefits away from people who are too sick to work. And it's hard to know how they can actually top that for nastiness, but I'm sure that they'll find a way. I mean, they keep raising the bar and clearing it every time. But I did think that perhaps they're just throwing away all of their best material too early, because they could have got at least another week out of that taking tents off the homeless thing. I mean, they could have, started legal proceedings against charities that are doling out sandwiches to those who are starving. That kind of thing. I'm just spitballing now. But to follow up the tent thing almost immediately with the let's take away the benefits from the people who are too sick to work, unless they overcome that sickness in some sort of miracle and find themselves able to work after all. I think it's they're just throwing all the good stuff too soon. It's like Simon and Garfunkel coming on stage and doing all of Bridge Over Troubled Water right off the bat. You want to leave some of that good stuff right for the end, as an encore. Just a suggestion. I'm trying to help.
Nick Abbot on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
I enjoy working with people.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Ron emails Titchy Suit Size cited Jeremy Corbyn twice in PMQs this week as the reason for failure. Why can't they leave him alone? He's doing his best. And he's spelt cited, S-I-G-H-T-E-D. Now, unless you mean that he actually had sight of him twice. Where was he? There on the stair, right there. A little mouse with clogs. Oh, no, that is Titchy Suit Size. The little mouse with clogs on. They're right despair, going clippity-clop on the stair.
This government...
Yes, you. Di says the clue is in the name. Tory means thief in Ireland or Irish or both. Producer research, according to the irishhistory.com, Tory is the anglicisation of the Irish word, I imagine that's pronounced Tory, although there's, if it is, then half of the letters in it are dropped. Tory, T-O-I-R-A-I-D-H. Blimey. Anyway, it means literally pursued men, or more figuratively, men on the run. Particularly in the 17th century Ireland, but there's a secondary meaning. Tory means not only a bandit, but also a guerrilla fighter on behalf of the Catholic cause. I think we're going to just stick with bandit. What do you say, Dave?
I think this is nonsense.
Yeah, he's in total agreement. Spot blooming on. Let's have Kensington. Hello, Mark.
Hi there, hello.
Hello there.
Hi. Now, recently, Andrew Marr, 2 days ago, had a very high-ranking politician who's specifically dealing with, possibly a minister, dealing with the issue of forcing the mentally ill to look for work and cutting their benefits.
Yes.
And he agreed when Andrew Marr asked him, are we talking about very mentally ill, so not low mood or depression? We're talking about clinical psychiatric disorders such as hearing voices, thinking you're the king, or schizophrenia, bipolar, mania, with hallucinations. Now, it's interesting...
Aircraft control, I think. An immediate fast-track application to Heathrow, straight away. Let's get them on the case right now.
Well, it's interesting that human rights laws are now being made unlawful by the introduction of a law that makes the law unlawful. But unfortunately, it doesn't just apply to people who enter the UK and want to live here without a visa. So it applies to the many very mentally ill people who, up until some time ago, were kept in institutions. But then it was discovered that, A, it gave them a bit more liberty and in some ways was more humane, but also saved thousands of pounds a week by having them in the community. with community psychiatric nurses caring the community, giving them medication and so on.
Yeah.
So now we're having saved money on keeping them in institutions. We now want to save money on keeping them out of the institutions, and you're going to have, if a schizophrenic is living in their flat and the benefits are cut, the housing benefit will go, so that you'll then have a homeless, mentally ill person on the street.
Mark, this is all perfectly normal in a well-run country.
A lifestyle choice, I trust.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. Senior Tories have condemned plans to strip the right to free prescriptions and from benefits claimants who don't look for work, warning that the government risks... This is Senior Tories now. Have condemned plans to strip the right to free prescriptions from benefit claimants who don't look for work. Senior Tories warned that the government risks descending into the politics of hate. God, that sound effect took forever to appear. Like I hit it, and then it seemed like this great echoing chasm. This silence that seemed to go on forever while it decided. It's almost like this computer picked up its pettiskirts and thought about it for a bit, then hurled itself at the finishing line. Senior Tories have warned that stripping the right to free prescriptions from benefits claimants who don't look for work risks the government descending into the politics of hate. That's more like it. Risks, as in it hasn't happened yet, but it might. Come on. Wake up, Senior Tories. It's later than you think. Former Deputy Prime Minister Michael Heseltine said ministers should not use the health service as a sanction. And all ministers heard was... yeah, it's just all noise to the regime. Doctors' leaders also hit out, accusing the government of holding people's health to ransom, also known as the plan. The plan. This came after the government announced a new crackdown that will see those who coast on benefits and refuse to take a job lose access to free prescriptions and dental treatment, among other things. They should simply do what a top Tory does and take 5 or 6 jobs, all paying 6-figure salaries, on top of the 86 grand they get for being a part-time MP, and then they won't be a burden on the state. Problem solved. The Chancellor, Jezza Hunt, said the move, which is one plank of a wider back-to-work plan expected in next week's autumn statement, is necessary to stop, quotes, anyone choosing to coast on the hard work of taxpayers. Because coasting on the hard work of taxpayers is the government's job. Tory grandee Lord Heseltine said he was all for persuading people to go back to work, but that the last thing anyone should do is attack people on health grounds. He said, I'm wary of zealots' interests welling up into hate politics. They need to be careful. Why? Because it might not be popular. Hate politics is all the regime have left at this point. That Lord Heseltine better be careful lest he finds himself on a government list of radicals. Former Health Secretary Stephen Dorrell said, making a virtue of withdrawing healthcare support from people who, by implication, need it, is deliberately unpleasant. Yeah, that's right. Being deliberately unpleasant is the regime's action plan for winning the next election. It's like these people have been living in a cocoon for the past 14 years. Are you receiving us? Do you get the news where you live? Former Health Secretary Stephen Dorrell said that the plans could be subject to a legal challenge. He said it wouldn't surprise me if there isn't some clause in one of the human rights pieces of legislation that could be used to at least make this arguable in front of court. Which also sounds like the plan. Another attack on the courts incoming. It's the same game as Rwanda. I mean, the regime does something it knows it can't get away with, while promising the hard of thought that if only the government could get away with it, then their lives would get better. And when the courts do the expected and they chuck it out, then the regime will go into a pantomime fit of fake fury, call them enemies of the people, and say to their cult fans, well, we tried, but your lives will now not get better because of those people. No! So, of course, it will get challenged in the courts. That's the whole idea. Dr. Latifa Patel of the British Medical Association said the government should not hold people's health to ransom, especially when their poor health may be the very reason they're unable to work in the first place. He said removing people's access to the medication that they need would not only be cruel, risking real harm, but also counterintuitive. She said as unwell people would pile further pressure and expense onto an already overstretched NHS. Well, fortunately, after 14 years of safe in their hands, I think we know how much the regime are concerned with overstretching the NHS. And Shadow Health Secretary Wes Streeting said that there were already sanctions for those taking the mick, but he added that I don't see how limiting people's access to healthcare is going to be effective or ethical. Effective. Ethical? I think effective and ethical left the building some while back, eh, Bodge?
I can't comment on that.
The measures are expected to affect tens of thousands of people out of more than 1 million universal credit claimants. They're going to kick in if someone is judged to have been disengaged for 6 months. And as well as losing the right to free prescriptions, they'd also lose access to cheaper mobile phone packages, help from energy suppliers, travel discount schemes and funeral costs. Which is unfortunate because I would imagine that depriving the sick from their medicines is going to rather increase the numbers of funerals. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
A big sack of monkey nuts.
A big sack of monkey nuts. Rochester, hello, Lulu.
Oh, hello, Nick, darling.
Lulu.
How are you?
I am
Lovely
great, mate.
Nick, I dreamt about you the other night.
Oh, yes.
It was lovely. I was at a festival and I met you and you wanted me to get a cheap flight to Australia for you.
Right, that makes sense. What class was I travelling in?
Well, you couldn't afford business, so we had to put you in pleb class. But
we put me in the hold with the luggage.
Put you in the hold with the luggage. So look, a couple of 3-4 things to paraphrase Phil Leotardo. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, I'm going in for my rewatch of The Sopranos very shortly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So, do you know, I'm not even going to do the week in Tory because I just feel like I'm in a parallel universe with this lot.
That sounds great. How do you get there?
Oh, but you know, it's just like, I can't bear it.
How much is a pint of lager in this parallel universe?
Booze.
Because
20 pence.
20p, that's great. That's better than £8, which I was charged the other day. £8!
What?
Yeah.
You should come to Rochester to a fabulous place called 3 Sheets to the Wind, where we do lovely Austrian lager for £5.50 a pint, and it's fabulous. But anyway,
3 Sheets to the Wind, is that what it's called?
Yes. Please come down. You get a very warm welcome, because we all love you there.
Yeah.
No. Your glamorous
It's a no from me.
Oh,
what is that? Where did that come from, by the way? 3 Sheets to the Wind.
It's
no doubt a sailing thing. Yeah, of course it is. But what does it?
Yeah.
What does it mean?
It was when they were facing a storm and they'd have to put up the third sheet. You see. I don't know.
What has that got to do?
Yeah.
Okay. That's my question. All right. Never mind.
Well,
we'll never know. We'll never know, Lulu.
No, we won't. So, look, I was saying to your lovely, glamorous assistant, who is very wonderful and very caring, I have to say. Yeah. I think he needs a rise. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I was listening to your old shows, you know, Nick Abbott Habit from about 3 years ago. And it just struck me how you don't get any of these Brexit boneheads ring you anymore, do you? But they were all over you, weren't they, back then?
Oh, they couldn't wait to tell me how wrong I was about what Brexit was going to give us. And now that we've had it, they're completely silent on the subject.
Very, very quiet. And there was some guy who said, I really enjoyed this because you totally ripped him a new one. He was saying, well, I don't understand why there's going to be food shortage. And you said, look, just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Yeah. Why don't you educate yourself?
Well, I didn't say that. I probably didn't say, why don't you educate yourself? But I might have said that just because you don't think it's going to happen doesn't mean to say it's so.
Well, I think you said something in the vein of just read about it.
Yeah, just read something for crying out loud. Yes.
And finally, in closing, I saw you put on Twitter a few weeks ago about The West Wing. Have you started it yet?
No.
It's a fabulous show.
How many series?
Oh, it's quite it's an investment, darling, but it's worth it. It's so good.
Okay,
but that lovely scene you put up, which just totally laid bare the stupidity of religion. You remember that?
I vaguely remember retweeting what somebody else had put up from the West Wing. Yeah, he dismantled some religionist. Yeah, it was excellent work.
It was beautiful. And then the final thing was he said, oh, and by the way, when the president stands, no one sits. Oh, it's just like beautiful. I loved it.
All right, thanks a lot for the update there, Lulu. I'll see you down the 3 sheets. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. What she's talking about is the podcast that I do called the Nick Abbot Habit, which are clips of old shows. It's a best of. It's a half an hour, and it comes out on a Monday. It's called Nick Abbot Habit. Ask for it by name on an internet near you. It's on Global Player, which, if you don't have, is free, and you can get it from globalplayer.com or your favourite app store. The name of the podcast, again, the Nick Abbot Habit. It's a best of old shows, comes out on a Monday. I think you'll love it. Let's have a call in East Yorkshire. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Nick. Yeah, you mentioned water companies earlier on, and that triggered me to ring in. This week it was announced by United Utilities that they are paying out more in dividends than they made in profit.
Yeah, it's like a magic trick.
Yeah, I mean, trying to make money out into investors' pockets. But the reason they said they did it was they wanted to make the company attractive to investors.
Yes.
So that they could invest in more sewage work.
Yeah.
It's insanity. But don't you remember in spring the government said they'd given the water companies a really serious talking to?
Oh, sure.
And told them not to pay out over-optimistic dividends.
Dividends, yeah.
And United Utilities have just given them an Andrea Jenkins, I mean.
Exactly, yeah. The government isn't serious. They have no intention of bringing these companies to book. They're all of a piece. The government and these companies, they're all on the same side. They are all in it together. And we're talking about the company that dumps raw sewage into Lake Windermere.
Yeah, correct.
Just let that sink in, just for a moment. Not the effluent in Lake Windermere. Not that sink in.
Disgusting.
But just the idea of it, the very idea.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is that I can't imagine the vast amount of shares in United Utilities are owned by poor people, and they thought, people are having a bit of a hard time with the cost of living, haven't they? We'll give them bonus. These are held by multinationals.
Yes, well, they're held by Australia, America, and I think Canada. I have detailed files, and I'll go through it in excruciating detail if you really insist. But I think that our water companies are by and large owned by the wealth management companies who are based abroad. We get nothing for it at all.
No. I just find it sickening that they can pay more in dividends than they've made profits. I mean, I've run businesses, and believe you me, if you pay out more than you make in profits instead of investing in the company, eventually you go bust.
Well, this is why this entire country is on the verge of going bust, is because we have just about the worst record of investing for the future of any major modern developed economy. There's almost no country that is worse at that than we are, and the reason is short-termism. People who own corporations, who own shares in places like water companies, they aren't remotely interested in the future. They're interested in how much money they're going to get tomorrow. And so they take all of the company, they leech all of the money out of these corporations and give it to themselves, and to hell with what happens in the future. They have announced, by the way, that they're going to spend, I can't remember how many £billion it is, on updating the infrastructure, but spoiler alert, we're going to have to pay for it in increased bills.
Talk about short-termism. I mean, there's been no industrial training plan. I worked in FB, and the government abandoned further education, apprenticeships and skills, and there was no plan for what we needed. You talked to government ministers and said, look, you need to support us because we're going to need X, Y, joiners, plumbers, electricians, whatever in the future.
Yeah.
Oh, no, the industry will take care of that. Well, what we did was import them from Poland and Eastern Europe instead of training our own.
Yeah.
How short then?
With the corporations, so the government. Nobody in government is interested in the long term, because how does it benefit them personally? Improving things in the long term isn't going to do Rishi Sunak any favours tomorrow.
No, I mean, he's announced 8 billion or whatever for potholes over 11 years. He isn't going to be there in 11 years.
No. It's also fixing a problem that they caused by defunding the councils whose job it was to fix the potholes. I mean, if the councils have a choice between fixing potholes and taking care of the old and the infirm on their manor, then, a decent person is going to do the latter. And the potholes can just, they can just sit there, and they'll pay out for drivers who ruin their cars going over them. And that's less money in the short term than fixing them in the long term. 8 billion to... And he released a picture of himself pointing at a pothole. Did you see that?
And the text, did you see the text that they gave out with the dips in it, like potholes, in the announcement?
No, I didn't see that.
We couldn't have done that, but yeah, where the sentence goes along, it dips down in places to indicate potholes. Wow. I mean, how childish is that from a government?
Yeah.
You've got to be joking.
Well, any day now he's going to graduate into long trousers, so maybe he'll leave all that to childish stuff behind. All right, thanks a lot, Mike. Cheers, mate. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Yeah, the good job that Fergal Sharkey is popularising this information about the water companies. I mean, I know it's not just him, but he is the most famous voice among them, and he is not letting them go. The water companies must be absolutely furious with him, because they had a really good run of taking out all of our money and showering themselves with our cash, like we shower ourselves with their barely clean water, and pouring what comes out of our toilets straight into our rivers. They must have thought that this could go on forever, and then up comes that bloke from the undertones and spoils their little scheme. So I'll get into that in a minute. It's just absolutely incredible what is happening in this country. I was about to say, name one single thing that is better now than it was 13 years ago. But I've been there before, and nobody could. Not a single solitary person. No one. I dedicated an entire show to it a little while ago. Name one thing. I made it really easy. Just one thing that's better now. No one could come up with a single thing. So I'll get into that in a minute, and plenty else besides. There was a speech that was the maiden speech in Parliament by Suella Braverman. Did you read that? Good grief. So I'll get into that later on as well. So much to do and so little time in which to do it. This text says, "Hey Nick, I'm one of those young gamers. I'm playing Power Wash Simulator while I listen." What does that mean? There's no such game as Power Wash Simulator. Is that where you pretend to wash eco-zealots off the street with Boris Johnson's Waffen Squirter 9000? Power Wash Simulator. Nonsense. And Jim says, Tory Economics 101, wage rises fuel inflation, tax cuts for the rich boost the economy. Yeah, that's about it. That's where we are. I'd rather be in that parallel universe we were hearing about.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Yeah!
Right, so what are we doing?
Given we are doing a radio show, further information on the Power Wash Simulator. It's a video game in which players take control of a power washing business and complete various jobs to earn money. Gameplay primarily revolves around using a power washer to clean dirt off objects and buildings. You've got to be kidding me. The kids today, what a massive disappointment they are. What, sex and drugs and rock and roll not stimulating enough for you? Right, okay. Now, I understand there's a certain pleasure to be got from using an actual real-life power washer to get dirt off stuff. But you're sitting there playing a video game pretending that you've got a power washer to clean dirt off objects. Well, I'll go to the foot of our stairs. Jim says, did you hear that W.H. Smiths are going to have a cardboard cutout of a policeman standing in the shop? Has anyone seen one? What, a W.H. Smiths? No, not in ages. Are they still a thing? I saw a Ryman's the other day. I can't believe they're still a thing. I didn't go in because, I don't need a hole punch. It says, Nick, is there a law that is related and or marriage related that prohibits your partner from eating peanuts really loudly? Please let me know if you've heard of said crime. P.S. You may unknowingly be a perpetrator too. No, I'm not. I don't like. I don't know. Peanuts. They stick in your teeth. You eat them for 5 minutes, and then you spend the next half an hour trying to get it out of your teeth. No, just too annoying. Plus, it's not a nut. Did you know that? It's a legume, as anyone who's seen Third Rock from the Sun can tell you. And this text says, Rishi, soon to be sacked, is actually working night and day on learning how his contactless credit cards function.
I am totally 100% on it.
He's 100% on that. Right, water, then, as we're talking about power washing. Suspected illegal dumping of raw sewage into Lake Windermere took place on up to 70 days in 2022. A year in which campaigners said the lake had its worst summer of harmful algal blooms, according to analysis of data released under the Environmental Information Rules. Professor Peter Hammond, whose research first identified the scale of the illegal raw sewage discharges from English water companies, has analysed detailed data on spills and treatment by United Utilities. His analysis concluded that permit conditions at 3 United Utilities treatment works and 1 pumping station that feed into Windermere were breached on 70 days over the year. 70 days. That's 20% of the time. That's more than once a week. And so the directors and shareholders of United Utilities are going to jail. No, they're going to the bank. Laughing. Breaches of permits are illegal, according to the Environment Agency, which is involved in a criminal investigation into potentially illegal discharges from more than 2,000 water company treatment plants across England. Can we just skip to the part of the investigation where they determined that lessons must be learned and nothing further happens? Yeah. In the summer of last year, blue-green algae covered much of the north shore of Windermere, which is England's largest natural lake and a World Heritage Site, in what campaigners said was the worst incidence of algal blooms. The Environment Agency says blue-green algae can produce toxins that can kill wild animals and livestock and pets and harm people. But hey, what's a little light death? I mean, we're all going to die eventually, but shareholders need their dividends now. Those yachts don't buy themselves, you know. And those shareholders, well, they're mostly Australian and American and Norwegian. They're asset managers, hedge funds, which control trillions of dollars of investments for some of the world's richest families. So at least your money is going to a good cause. Of the campaign group Save Windermere, a bloke called Matt requested data from the Environment Agency on spills and water treatment works at Ambleside, North Surrey, Grasmere and a pumping station at Hawkshead. His analysis found that discharges of raw sewage took place in breach of permits across the year. Let's just pause and contemplate what it is we're talking about here. It's the Lake District, one of the world's most beautiful sights, one of the great treasures of the nation, about as British as you can get, and it's receiving vast amounts of raw sewage at the rate of 1 every 5 days. Lake Windermere. if they can do it to a World Heritage Site right under our noses, imagine what is happening to the rivers where you live. According to the Environment Agency, raw sewage was dumped into Windermere for 5,904 hours over a period of 246 days last year. The work assessed that up to 70 days of these releases were potentially illegal. But, it's not all bad news, because United Utilities has committed itself to paying out more in dividends than to shareholders than it actually makes. That means the company will be distributing about £113 million to shareholders, despite profits after tax coming in at £90 million. A difference of 25%, or a payout of £5 for every £4 earned. Did you get that? For every £4 they get coming in from bills in profits, they're paying out £5 to shareholders, some of the richest people in the world. All perfectly normal in a well-run country. And it's not the only thing that's going up. So is the amount that it's committed to spending on improving infrastructure. But, fun fact, they're raising the bills, so you will be paying for it. You can go ahead and scream now, if you like. Go on, let it out. Do you ever feel like you've been had? This text says, there is no limit to the infinite. To the internet, it's infinite, says Rose. Yeah, I know that. I know. Ashling says, Elon Musk's rocket. Ha ha. Yeah. It's just another successful week in the life of Elon Musk. It just keeps getting better and better, don't it, Elon? If that is indeed your name. Glasgow, hello, Chrissy.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Excellent. That's quite shocking what you said there about the water company. It was sharp and take a breath from me. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. It's happening everywhere. If it's happening there, it's happening absolutely everywhere. Yeah.
See the extra you said it was being. It's not why I phoned in, but I'm just agog at what you said. When you said that, about paying out the extra over and above what they bring in, how is that done?
How?
Is that government subsidy?
No, well, I don't know for sure, but I would imagine that they're doing it in the same way that water companies have been doing it since the scam of privatisation was unveiled for us. It's that they're borrowing the money against their assets and then paying that money that they borrowed to themselves.
Yep, I've heard of that being done before. Okay, and then they're taking advantage of a loophole, but they're not doing anything illegal. They're just being immoral, and they're getting away with it. Yeah, that's...
Well, the last part of that sentence is absolutely true. They are getting away with it. Yes, they are.
Yeah. In terms of why I phoned in, I'm really concerned after the autumn statement and the sort of ideas of going after the sick and the poor and disabled and all this kind of now going along. And I don't have a guide dog, so I'm safe from Barrowman anyway. But in their game of peasant bingo, they've got me.
Yes.
Because I'm one of the people in the firing line, and so is my daughter.
Right.
And I'm really quite scared because as a society, we're now valuing humans in terms of their productivity, and every person's expected to earn, and if you don't earn, you're not as valuable. Really, that's what it seems to be by these particular people, and they spread that stuff.
This is why countries like this, and America is another one, that they like their the rich write the rules such that the rich get all the prizes. In other better run countries, the countries that are run for the benefit of the people, like Sweden, Norway, Finland, those places, they are run for the benefit of the people. So they spread the wealth out a bit more. They provide people with safety nets so that they don't feel that all they have to do is miss one rental payment and they'll be out on the streets, like is happening in this country. And that's why they have happier people there.
Yeah, it's Dickensian, isn't it? I'm a qualified nurse, but I'm not working at the moment, and so I find that limiting access to healthcare and things like that just morally abhorrent. It's not.
It's designed to make you angry, though, Chrissy. That's the reason why they're doing it. They're not really doing it because they think that they're going to save enough money to kickstart the economy by doing this, and they're not doing it so that they can fill those job vacancies or anything like that, because they could do that just by allowing the foreign workers that we told to get out of our country to come back and do the work that they want to do. So they could fix that problem in an instant, but they don't want to fix the problem. They just want to make you angry.
Yeah, I suppose it's just down to using our vote and staying alert to what they're saying. I wanted to, my circumstances, as I say, don't really allow for me to be back at work, but I thought I could do some volunteering. I've done volunteering in the past, really enjoyed it. I could really do with socialising with people and just getting out there, and keeping myself busy, and making yourself feel, because it's not fun living on benefits and being completely reliant. It's not good if you think that people are judging you all the time and you feel like a waste of space, and you and you're not. But
of course
you
not.
Think that. But the last time I had a volunteer role, you're not going to believe this, Nick, although you will. The last time I had a volunteer role was in a home support charity called Homestart, and I was supporting families with children under 5 and supporting people in their tenancies to stay there, and I was with them for about 2 to 3 years, and I just loved it. And I was in a similar position to what I'm in now, but I was trying to get some experience up before I went to uni, and I thought, well, I'd like to go back and do something like that. But then I remembered what they did to me the last time I had the volunteer role. The DWP they stopped my benefits, and they sent me a letter saying that they would only restart my benefits once I had filled in the attached form. And the form was to tell them how much I was earning as a volunteer.
Right.
Earning as a volunteer. They actually put it in those terms. And I phoned them and I said, do you understand that as a volunteer I'm not earning anything? Yes, but, what are they actually giving you?
Yeah.
I said, no.
Does not compute. Yeah. Actually helping people in your own time? No, I'm sorry, that doesn't make any sense at all to the regime.
Well, I can't afford for them to do that again. I'm already struggling as it is. And yet we've got a Scottish politician, I can't remember who it is, who just ran up 11 grand of roaming charges on his iPad because he took it on holiday with him and his kids were watching football live on the iPad and ran up this roaming charge.
Right.
And then apparently, allegedly, and he's apologised. The 11 grand's been paid back, but you wonder how many of these things haven't quite been found out yet. I can't even afford to die, but you're saying there about funeral payments. If I die and they put me in a wheelie bin, the wheelie bin's not going to get collected because Sunak's doing away with 7 bins. So they might as well just leave me in the park. One day, if just I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. No. But if you are out there wanting to help people, I think that puts you in almost instantly on the list of enemies of the people, Chrissy. Yeah, I know. It must be. Right. Okay. Well, I wish you all the best. Okay. Thanks for that. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Sean emails, has satire ever made a difference? Only asking because you should know. Why should I know? I think it does make a difference because it annoys. Making fun of a dictatorial regime is about the most annoying thing that you can do for them, because they present themselves as a strong force. And I'm particularly thinking of the Tangerine Tornado. Oh, shut up! He hates it when people make fun of him. The only reason that he went to try to be the president of the United States of America... I'm president! Can you believe it? The only reason he went for it is because Obakarama took the mick out of him at the that presidential chinwag that they have, whatever it's called.
That footage is still available on the World Wide Web. You can see him in the audience. The camera cuts to him, and he's absolutely steaming. Like smoke is coming off whatever that is that hovers above his bald pate. That's the reason why he became president of the United States of America, because he wanted to get back at Obama for taking the mick out of him. So, you know, dictators absolutely hate having the mickey taken out of them, because it sort of punctures their, this sort of force field that they're trying to create around themselves. So, yeah, satire does make a difference. Plus, it's the only thing we've got.
Nick Abbott on LBC. Call 0345 6060 973.
Some nobody.
0345 6060 973. Caroline says newspapers should have audio formats, but read by humans, not weird robot voices. Well, that would take a very long time for a human to sit down and read all those things. I think it would be cost prohibitive. And robot voices are going to get better. They just are. I mean, we're at the very foothills of the artificial intelligence revolution, and robot voices will pretty soon be indistinguishable from real ones. Betcha, betcha, betcha. I like the one... I take a train ride sometimes on... I can't remember the company now. But they have this woman's voice who welcomes you to the train. And presumably she recorded each word individually, and then they just, make it into sentences that make sense at that moment. And she said, every time she says it makes me laugh. She says, welcome to this service. As though she's being really sarcastic, and at that point you've been waiting for the first train that didn't arrive, and then the second train got cancelled, and then the third train was half an hour late, and it was and they forgot to put 4 carriages on, so there's only 3 carriages, and they've squeezed in 3 whole trains worth into just one, so you're standing on your suitcase for the 3 hours it takes you to get there, and then you got this woman coming over and says, welcome to this service. Yeah, exactly. 0345 6060 973. Sharon Cheam.
Oh, hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you for always. Your shows are just fantastic. I mean,
what, like science fiction? You mean?
I just love hearing your shows in general. And to be honest with you, recently I've been diagnosed with MS and a few other conditions to go with it. And sometimes I can't sleep at night. And you know what?
I send you right
even if I'm
off.
in pain, Nick,
yeah.
I completely forget. Your shows, always.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
And I'd like to thank you. And that's all I wanted to say.
Oh, well, sounds like you said it. Excellent work. Best of luck. Thanks a lot, Sharon. 0345 6060 973. This text says 5 priorities versus 5 missions. Can you ask Keir to come up with a few more? My own list at home is about 10 at least. Well, what are they? Don't leave us hanging on. Jim says, hi, Nick, I see that Northwest Power could be being bought. Frontrunner Scottish Power. However, they are Spanish-owned. Otherwise, other frontrunners are an Australian finance house or an American investment fund. Scottish Power in the first 9 months of the year reported £1.4 billion in profits. You couldn't make it up, he says. Yeah, you couldn't. I think they're Spanish and Qatari and, all the rest of it. They're basically, our water was sold off debt-free to companies that ran it as a monopoly, a service that we cannot do without and that we will be fined if we don't buy. They're running it as a monopoly. We're the only country in the world that has ever been so stupid as to sell off our water. It's just staggering. Our water. Edward, I mean, they made a whole James Bond film about that, didn't they? It wasn't the best, but at least it was, at least he kicked bottom. Edward emails, Liz Truss will receive £115,000 a year in perpetuity, despite being Prime Minister for just 49 days. At the same time, she's against the plebs being getting holiday pay.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The nerve of that woman is just off the scale. I mean, I wonder if she is being used by the regime as just another distraction. You know, she vomits out this stuff, and people take a sharp intake of breath, and then they collect themselves and start yelling back at her, and, you know, it whiles away the time, which you could be more profitably using to, criticise the regime. But, you know, she just takes the eye off for a bit. At this point, I would not be surprised if they were all in cahoots. 0345 6060 973. Let's have a call in Devon. Hello, Rose.
Oh, hello, Nick.
Rose.
Well, it's just a light little thing.
Oh, yes.
But maybe I could make a comment, just a quick comment after about the what they're doing about these benefits.
Yeah.
All that stuff. Well, you know how some people, I thought this was worth a mention, you know how some people like to moan about ungrateful asylum seekers, you know, with the Bibi Stocker and all that, how ungrateful they were.
Yeah.
As if, well, basically, I was sitting in the co-op and I thought they're supposed to be jolly grateful for any dungeon or coal cellar they might be tipped into, because they've then got a roof over their head.
Yeah, and they get 3 meals a day of a cup of cold sick, for which some of them complain. It's incredible.
Yes. Well, in the northwest of England, there's a asylum seekers orchestra, which, well, it includes some exiled musicians from the Syrian Symphony Orchestra, I understand, actually, as well.
Oh, yeah.
But they're all asylum seekers. And yesterday, they were performing a, in inverted commas sort of thing, a Stories of Sanctuaries concert in, not Northampton, in Newcastle Cathedral.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds like gratitude to me.
Yes.
Stories of Sanctuary. Stories of Sanctuary.
The gift of music is a beautiful thing.
Ah, well, yes, that's a way of looking at it. But I mean, obviously, if they're, if they're stories of sanctuary, they're saying this is how we were given sanctuary, isn't it? You know?
I would have to read the lyrics. I mean, they could be being sarcastic. You just don't know.
Yes. Well, that's all I know. But it just struck me that.
I retweeted a marvellous thing today, a musical, at least I think I retweeted it, I'm pretty sure that I did. It was a Ukrainian playing an instrument that is a typical Ukrainian instrument, the likes of which I'd never seen before. It looked like it had about 30 strings on a sort of a round type of guitar or violin or some such thing, and he was playing Nothing Else Matters by Metallica.
Rock and roll!
But he was playing it a solo on this string thing in between getting shot at by Russians, apparently.
Oh, blimey.
It was marvellous.
What sort of pitch was it, Nick? Was it highish or lowish, or I'm trying to imagine it?
Both at the same time. It was like several people were playing simultaneously, but it was just the one person.
Oh, blimey.
Look it up on the World Wide Web. It's on my Twitter feed.
Yes, I might find what it's called. Yeah. Well, the other thing was just, I was listening to Chrissy in Scotland, and I thought, well, there's a jolly good person, really sort of, she's volunteering and all this.
Yes.
And I got very, very cross. But I thought this earlier today. I thought the government is sort of terrorising people in that position. It's almost a sort of terrorising, isn't it? Because they're being made afraid.
I honestly don't.
Masses of people are going to be made afraid.
Yeah, I think that people are sort of missing the point. I know that the actual point is that this is people's lives that they're playing around with. But I think that the government isn't really that interested in getting the benefits bill down, because if they really were, then they're concentrating on the wrong thing. Because people cheating on benefits is such a microscopically small amount of the bill for fraud that this country suffers from, that it would cost them more, I would imagine, in order to go after these people than they will get if they get some of them into work and paying tax. So it doesn't make any sense other than creating anger and pointing the finger at the reason that your life isn't working out well is not because this government is an absolute shower. It's because those people over there are cheating you. So I think that's what this is.
Yeah. Yes, and creating fear. I mean, Chrissy said something about feeling, that people, this wasn't her word, despising, but, we're looking down on her. It's just absolute disgrace. But I'm absolutely sure that they know what the effect of it's going to be, and that's not the motive, perhaps, entirely, but except what you said is.
Yeah, well, I'm willing to get I'm willing to get proven wrong, but my assumption is that this is just another "let's take tents off the homeless people" thing. It's just a way to distract us, to get us looking over there at some appalling move on their part, which probably isn't going to come to pass. But it's to take our eye off what is actually happening, which is to strip mining this country for its wealth.
Yes, exactly. Well, maybe it won't come to pass, but I mean, if it does, you're then going to get massive more destitution, people killing themselves and people starving to death, and you just feel,
helpless. Yeah,
it's best known to themselves. Yeah. That's what they want.
Well, they want it because they think that it will get them enough of votes to get over the line and win the next general election, and that's really the it of it. Thanks a lot, Rose. Don't forget that it's all perfectly normal in a well-run country.
Leading Britain's conversation, Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
Anybody care what this guy thinks?
No!
Ash says, something I don't get about this stopping the boats business.
The country's priority is to stop the boats.
That stopping the boats business is that the government want to have a vote to ensure that Rwanda is safe. An unsafe country will be made safe because they've had a vote on it. Facts will change because they've had a vote on it. How the hell can anyone take the government seriously? Isn't it time for a revolution against the government and the short-trousered man? I think it's overdue, says Ash, whose name is on a government list. It's being added to it as we speak. They know where you live, Ash. And Jerry says, reading yesterday's texts and tweets today, a Prime Minister a day behind with everything they do, you're hired. A Prime Minister a day behind with everything they do, you're hired. Does that make sense? I'm not entirely sure that it does. Merthyr Tydfil, hello, Jeff.
Nick, how you doing, boy?
Good, thanks.
What on earth are you paying for beer? I can't believe it.
£8.
Booze.
£8 a pint.
What?
Yeah, £8 a pint.
All I can tell you is top-of-the-range German lager, £4.50 in a Goose and Cuckoo, Lapper Landover, next to Abergavenny.
The Goose and Cuckoo.
Right. This pothole business.
Yes.
They wondering about looking into potholes. Well, I got a hole he can look into, and it's called Fossa Fran.
Oh,
so I can come down this neck of the woods. And finally, Nick, what on earth is Wes Streeting, Shadow Health Minister, talking about? He wants to let private enterprise into the NHS.
Private enterprise is all over the NHS.
It is. I know. It's been going on for endless years, privatising various chunks of it.
Yeah.
But he wants to open the door. He used the words, open the door. Look, you and I have had a conversation about this many times, and we both agree, I think, that proportional representation is the only answer to this nonsense.
Yes.
Because when this Labour are promising to do what the Tories are doing.
This is remarkable. I hadn't actually picked this story up, but Wes Streeting tells the newspaper that Labour's plan for power, he wants to put our foot on the accelerator when it comes to NHS reform. He said he would hold the door wide open to... Yeah. Oh, God, and then the thing disappears, and it's offering me unlimited eye access for only $4.99 a month. Let me think about that. No. I mean, I know that journalism is not free and that you should pay for what you consume, but I can't do that right now. I'm trying to read a blooming story on the radio.
Well...
So I've got it on Yahoo News. Wait a minute. Labour Shadow Secretary Wes Streeting said he would hold the door wide open to the NHS for the private sector if his party was to win the general election.
Where can you go? What can you do? I mean, I'm just looking at it thinking, what? This can't... Look, Nick, proportional representation is the only answer to all this. This is just... we're out of control.
At the very least, we should at least try it. It can't possibly be as bad as what we're suffering from at the moment.
Place is being looted. They're looting it. Butch and Sundance were heading over the mountain as I was going over to the Goose and Cuckoo. They were passing me on 2 horses with all the swag. Right. And they need to head them off at the pass. I don't know what's happening. This is ridiculous.
Well, you and I are the old geezer who owns the mine, who hired Butch and Sundance to protect him and the money, and says, well, to Butch and Sundance, who are looking for bandits on the way down the mountain to the bank. He's going down the mountain to the bank to pick up the wages to come back. And he's been being held up by bandits on the way back. And Butch and Sundance are, they're checking the bushes and making sure there's nobody there at the pass on the way down the mountain. He says, ain't gonna hold us up going down the mountain. We ain't got no money going down the mountain. And then he says one of my favourite lines of all time. I'm probably going to get this wrong, but it's something like, morons. I got morons on my team. Best film ever. All right.
The hole in the ground, gang. Not the hole in the wall, gang.
Exactly right, yeah. OK, keep your eyes peeled, Jeff. Thanks a lot, mate. 0345 6060 973. He's chewing tobacco and then he spits. And then if he doesn't get on him, he says, bingo. And if he does, he says, damn it. Something like that. Aaron in Swanage says, Nick, I don't know which is worse than a long drive in the week, listening to Prime Minister's questions or my Right Said Fred CD. Both are deeply dippy, says Aaron. Well, that's just a fact. It's a musical fact. And Mike says, Nick, did you get loose on the juice? Please take this sobriety test. Say the Liz Truss Tosh Trust. Easy at that speed. And only once. Let's see now. Croydon. Hello, Derek.
Hi, Nick.
Derek.
Hello, Nick.
Yes,
can you
Derek.
Hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
A few things, as you usually say. Thank you very much for keeping me sane in all these years and keeping the home fires burning, sort of thing,
Right.
Thank you very much.
Well, really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, I was wondering about your little bird that you was pondering a couple of months or at the beginning of the year. When was it?
Well, which bird?
Do you remember you saw a little bird?
Oh! Well, that's years ago now. That's at least years ago.
Did you ever identify it?
No, I did not. People kept saying it's. I can't remember what they said now, but it was some sort of. It's a thing that feeds on the shore normally because it's got very, very long legs to keep its bottom out of the water.
Oh, I don't know about that.
But it didn't have no water when I saw it. I saw it in I think it was the middle of a shopping centre in concrete. And it was just running about the place. It was the weirdest thing. No, I never did identify it.
No, but it was just a curiosity, you know. But I thought it was only recent, like at the beginning of the year, wasn't it?
No, I'm not very good at this sort of thing, but I would say at least a couple of years ago. Maybe it was. Maybe I put it on my best of, and then you heard it on that, making you think that it was only at the beginning of the year. But other than that, I have no explanation that I can find. Yeah, I saw a bird. It was running about the... it was in Reading, as a matter of fact. And then I saw the same thing again, probably not the same bird, but the same type of bird, running around outside a garage repair shop in London that I was hanging outside. And it did not... It looked completely out of place. Very, very long legs, like it was on stilts, with a funny little grey body. Anyway, I've been through all that, and it lasted forever, and it was excruciating, and I never did actually positively identify it. So don't lead me down that road again, that route. Road or route. I got mixed up between the two, and then it came out rote. Not rote, route. 0345 6060 973. This text says, Nick, will there be a break from politics tonight? They're getting on my bleep. If you do something like what song describes that person, and we can message in. Right. No. And this text says, Esther McVeigh, the answer to a question that no one was asking. Well, that's just a fact. And we only deal in facts on this show.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Hi, honey. How are you?
I'm super. Thanks for asking. Elaine in Swindon says, blimey. Well, she doesn't say blimey. She says something ruder than that, but I'll change it to blimey. She says, a vegan sausage roll. What will they think of next? I'm going to have a lie down after that. Seems odd to me that they make vegetarian and vegan food in the shape and taste of the thing that those people are trying to avoid. Don't you find that weird? I mean, they could make it into anything. It's just, well, I've got no idea what it is. It's just mush, and they could form it into any shape and any taste. But what they do is they form it into the thing that the people who order it are trying to avoid. Craig via Alexa says, I think the bird you described as an ostrich. No. Yeah, there was an ostrich running around the outside of a shopping centre just the other day. No. This text says, imagine if Russia was ruled by vegans instead of Vladimir Putin. It doesn't bear thinking about. I don't understand that. Mrs. B says, the job titles you mentioned reminded me of when I was a junior at a certain bank. I was given a project and I was in charge, and I was to be called Miss Energy. I was really excited. I thought it was a Mr. Motivator type of job, but it was actually, the job was to turn off the lights at night. And finally, for the moment, Amy in Farnborough texts, did you hear that James O'Brien has decided to call Esther McVeigh the Gammon Maypole? The Gammon Maypole. Well, that sounds like a euphemism for a, gentleman's area.
Disgusting.
Gammon Maypole. Let me see now. Oldbury, Ranjit.
Hi, Nick, you're right.
Yes, good, thanks.
Yeah, I want to just talk about thick people in authority, before I talk about taking the benefits off people. You know that lady that found up Chrissy, No. And the person asked how much do you get paid for voluntary work?
Oh, that one.
Is that a stupid question, yeah?
Yes.
And then Rishi Sunak asked a homeless person, have you got a business?
Are you in business? Yeah.
Are you in business, right? Now, before I had my chippy, I used to drive trucks. Before that, I drove vans. And we was the first company started delivering parcels at night, right? And I knocked on this woman's door First, she wouldn't open it because it was dark. And then she did open it when I said, look at my van, this is where I'm from. And she came and she poked me. She went, do they let you drive vans? Right.
She poked you?
She poked me in my arm, yeah. And she says, do they let you drive vans?
Yeah.
I went, yeah.
Why did she ask you that?
Because of the colour of my skin. Right.
Really?
And I said, yeah, that's what it was. And and I live in the Midlands. There's lots of, people. I said, yeah, you must have red blood like all the rest of us. These are the kind of things, right, that these people do. And one of my mates who was a trucker, right, he got pulled over by the Vossa, yeah? And he says, driver, what you carrying? He went, I'm carrying engines for gliders, right? And he said, it gets better. He says, can I have a look in the back? So he opened the container, there was nothing in there. He says, I thought you was carrying engines for gliders. He went, he didn't say anything. He says, I need to weigh you anyway. He says, why you want to weigh me? I'm empty, I've offloaded. That is the kind of people, right, that end up, and this is no offence, like the ones that take your benefits off you, yeah?
No offence.
I was on benefits, right, when I was I think it was about 1996, right? And I'll tell you what, these people who take your benefits off you, and I think I ended up getting £14 once, yeah? And the way they treat you, right, is despicable, right? And I told the woman, I said, listen, one day, I hope you're unemployed and you'll understand, right? Now, I've got a couple of friends that work for the Department of Work and Pensions, and they've told me what they do. Like, I think one of your callers said, they got targets to meet, you know? So you go there, they say, okay, Mr. Abbott, right? We understand you've only got one leg, and you've got one arm, right? Now, if we put you on a seat, yeah, and what happens is then you've got to check people's passes and direct them to the right room. Can you do that? And if you say, well, yeah, of course I can. That means, Mr. Abbott, you are fit enough to work, we're taking your benefits off you. Right? Then you're going to go through 8, 9, 12 weeks of appealing and you'll get your money reinstated. But this little kid or who's taking you off the benefits, yeah, goes running up to his gaffer, yeah, I've taken another one off. And that's what Rishi Sunak and all these people are doing, yeah? And they're causing misery for the people, yeah? Because, when they first introduced the bedroom tax, right, a woman in the Midlands actually committed suicide. These guys now are playing games with poor people's lives.
Yeah. Well,
right.
Yes, but I have to say that poor people are more likely than any other category of people in this country to have voted Conservative over and over and over again. And I've been told that great volume for years now that everybody knew what they were voting for. So they must be delighted.
Yeah, but that's what I don't understand. You say to me, oh, they wish when they buy that, when you spend that £2 on the lottery ticket, you're going to win, yeah? If you're born poor, you probably are going to die poor.
Yes.
Yeah? And then they give you these examples of people like Alan Sugar, Richard Branson.
Right.
Yeah. Out of 67 million, 3 people have become billionaires,
yes.
Yeah?
If you are not rich now, it's vanishingly unlikely that you ever will be rich, despite the fact that you may think deep in your bones that it's going to happen to you because you are special. It almost certainly won't.
Yeah, but why is it about... How can you educate the mass... You always say masses...
Time.
Yeah?
I guess time. Time eventually will...
It's too late, though.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to say to you, Nick, is, right, I mean, look at that guy. He got angry about a vegan sausage roll. I would have, you should have given him a little bit more time, yeah? Give him a bit more right.
I think it was, a joke. Nothing to get annoyed about.
I would have asked him, what did you actually go and buy to eat? Then after, where do you go? Do you go to the shop next door or something?
I think you're getting angry at the wrong thing there, Reggie. It was just a joke.
I'm calm today because I'm going to go scrumping in a bit for some potatoes and then go fishing as well, yeah?
I wish you all the best with that. You'll find them hanging from a tree near you, no doubt. Thanks a lot, Ranjit. Gotta go. Mark in Manchester says, good evening. Woke is just the new name for political correctness. So we've gone from PC to woke, all due to the snowflakes in our society wanting change. A question, do you think that AI can take over my trade as an electrician, or do you think I'm safe for now? Well, for now you are, yeah. And I don't think woke is political correctness. I mean, there may be some overlap, but as far as I can fathom, woke is being concerned for the welfare of others. And if that makes you angry, if people being concerned for the welfare of others makes you angry, well, that's on you. Just because you're angry doesn't mean to say you're right. Stephen Merthyr Tydfil says, I was in the greengrocers this week and they were selling vegan cauliflowers. It's woke gone mad, says Steve. And Paul in Shoreham says, I believe the official title of Esther McVeigh's new job is Woke Finder General. Yeah, I still think that the funniest thing about that was Jacob Smug saying that, it's ridiculous that the government is creating these non-jobs with these silly titles. The man that used to be the minister for finding good things to say about Brexit.
I don't know anything.
Wow, stereo.
I don't know anything.
Yeah, still doesn't know anything. The Brexit benefit czar. I was a bit too late to take a call before the news, so I guess I'll have to get through some of these. God, there's so many. Paul in London says, let's deal in facts. Facts? Oh, OK then. He says, the UK current solution to illegal migration is to ship people to another country. I thought that was called people trafficking. The government has wasted an 80-seat majority. The UK has had 5 PMs in 13 years. Downing Street has had the most fines in Britain for illegal parties. We've paid over the odds to water companies to pump poo into our rivers, and nobody can explain to me the point of Grant Shapps, says Paul. Very, very annoyed. Calm down, Paul. It might never Oh, no. That's right. It already has. And Howard in Llandudno texts, I've just checked the price of the Kindle version of Britannia Unchained. It's £16.24.
What?
£16.24. A weird price for a weird book. And you can't even use it as toilet paper like the printed version. Well, that is just a fact. And Dowlin Hove says, to reduce the benefit bill, the government could just build lots of social housing, which would cut the cost of housing benefit by about 50%. It's so obvious, I can't believe they haven't already thought of it. Oh, they probably thought of it, all right, but couldn't find a way to make people angry about it. I just think that this is what that is, this taking benefits away from the poor and the infirm. It's just another, let's take tents away from the homeless. I mean, they may go ahead and do it anyway, but the reason that they came up with this is a distraction. It's not about the money. Well, I'll get into that in a minute. It's absolutely incredible what they're concentrating on getting back, as opposed to ignoring what we lose. So, well, I'll get into that in a minute. Alice in Norwich texts, now I've stopped laughing out loud, I can confirm categorically that Norwich is not and never has been woke. And, I don't doubt, will prove it again by voting Tory at the next election. Yeah. Graham says, your caller couldn't define woke. It needs to be explained to him that woke is a posh word for a Chinese cooking pan. Given my son's ability to produce awesome Oriental food, the woke should be encouraged. 03456 6060 973. Text 84850. Email nick@lbc.co.uk. If you're on Twitter, it's @LBC.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
Leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC. This is LBC from Global, leading Britain's conversation with Nick Abbot.
Shut up. Right, so what we doing?
Given we're doing a radio show, but it does remind me that I do a podcast with Carol McGiffin, in which we try to solve people's problems while laughing our faces off. Now, if you want us to have a bash at your issue, sometimes we do come up with some pretty good suggestions. in amongst the frivolity. But if you want us to have a bash at your issue, then you have to send it to this address, nickandcarol@global.com, NICKANDCAROL @global.com, and prepare to be totally satisfied.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ask for it by name on an internet near you. What's your problem with Nick and Carol? If you wish to just take a break from all of this misery, then I think it'll be right up your alley. It's an hour long, comes out on a Monday, and you can get it on Global Player. What's your problem with Nick and Carol?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. This text says, do we own the air we breathe? Perhaps we should nationalise it before they sell it to Saudi and we have to pay per breath. The only reason that the Tories have not sold the air that we breathe is because they couldn't figure out a way to do it. Keith emails, how do the Tories keep getting away with it? I don't understand. I thought we were the 6th richest country in the world. Well, we used to be the 5th, and now we're the 6th. But that doesn't really make no never mind, because you have to find out or determine where the wealth is. There's no point being, even if we were the most rich country in the world, it wouldn't make much difference to the rest of us if only one person held all the wealth. Which is why we are way down the happiness index compared to countries like Sweden and Norway and Finland, who take care of their own. They take care of their people. They use the tax money that's spent not to further enrich the regime. They use it to help the people who pay the tax, give them a safety net, make them comfortable and happy. And what's the purpose of life other than to maximise your HAPPY-ness? Let's have a call in Maidstone. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Nick. It's your lefty lovey. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Well, as one of those benefit shirkers, on benefits, I thought I would take a leaf out of the government's book and I'd go and look at the figures to see how much of a problem this really is. So I went off and I read the ONS report and the Public Accounts Committee. Mm-hmm. And did you know, when the Prime Minister was the Chancellor, we had government fraud of $5.5 billion.
Way more than that.
It's now $22 billion a year.
Yes, more than that.
Yeah, but that's just government. There's more. Because then the tax office, HMRC, announced that they lost $32 billion in tax fraud.
Yes, but it's more than that.
Well, there's even more, because that doesn't account for the $27 billion that they know is outstanding from problems with the COVID bounce-back loan and furlough scheme.
Which is apparently very, very difficult to get that money back, and it's not in the public interest.
So, but then what worries me, Nick, is that the benefits figure was $6.5 billion, that which was at 4% in 2021 and is now down to 3.6% in 2022.
What is 3.6 what?
That is fraud and overpayments.
Right.
So the total amount that they can possibly do is 6.5 when we've already accounted for something like 78 billion in fraud just between the government and tax.
Well, you've blown my mind with all these numbers, Rob.
And one,
yes,
two, and 6 million.
6 million numbers, and my mind is absolutely swimming right now. But leave it with me, and I'll try to make sense of it. All right.
But in the meantime, do you think you could tell me where my local food bank is?
Yeah, it's only open during banking hours, I'm afraid.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah,
sorry.
Right. Okay, ta-da. Yes, you know how much of fraud is benefit fraud? This is what Jezza Hunt is hyperventilating about. He wants to protect you, the taxpayer, from losing money to benefit fraud. You know what percentage of fraud is benefit fraud? That's right, 0.5%.
What?
0.5%. That's what he's concentrating on. The 0.5%. Benefit fraud, 1.2 billion. Now, that sounds like a big number. But benefits unclaimed is 16 billion. That is benefits that people are due that they don't know about or haven't bothered to claim, 16 billion. which rather swamps that benefit fraud figure of 1.2 billion. Tax avoided, evaded and uncollected, 120 billion. 120 billion. And he isn't going after that, because the people that avoid, evade and don't allow their tax to be collected, that includes the super rich. That's the donor class, that is. No, he's going after the poor people that are guilty of fraud of they may actually not be guilty of it, but it's that's the figure that they've got. 1.2 billion. That's the Department of Work and Pensions estimate. 1.2 billion. And he's concentrating on the 1.2 billion and totally ignoring the 120 billion that is avoided by people who can afford to pay it. They squirrel it away offshore in one of those tax avoidance rackets that are surrounded by beach and have a Union Jack flag on their government buildings. It's just amazing when you look at the figures. It's staggering. It's not about the money, it's about the headlines. Oh, yeah, we're going to get all of that money back. And they're not going to get any of that money back. It would cost them 1.2 billion to get the 1.2 billion back. But if they went after the 120 billion, then you think they might get a chunk of that back. You know, if they really tried hard. If they called up some of their mates, for instance, and asked them, pretty please with sugar on top, can you pay your blooming taxes? Calm me down. Jeremy Hunt is poised to slash a tax in his autumn statement next week as he looks to appease backbench Tory demands for cuts. That is, cuts that will disproportionately benefit the well-off. The very people on the Tory backbenches that are calling for a cut. It's not for you, it's for them. It's for the bigger people, not...
the little people.
Not you. The Chancellor is expected to announce inheritance tax cuts amid claims that he has greater wriggle room in the public finances than previously expected. And if there is not a nightclub called the Wriggle Room, then there is something that is seriously up with the world. The Wriggle Room. I would queue outside a velvet rope to go into that, but my name's not on the list and I'm not getting in.
Absolutely.
The Chancellor is expected to announce inheritance tax cuts amid claims he has greater wriggle room in the public finances than previously expected, which translates as the Tories are plummeting in the polls and being nasty to foreigners isn't having the effect they expected. So he's going to chuck around some money and hope that the people who won't be benefiting from it can be persuaded that they actually will be. Jezza Hunt is mulling plans to halve the rate of inheritance tax and cut taxes for small businesses in his fiscal package next Wednesday. Well, let's dismiss the small businesses thing. It's increasing the level at which they charge VAT by about £5,000.
Fabulous.
That ain't going to help, not dramatically. It just won't. I mean, if he really wanted to help out small businesses, he'd renegotiate the dismal deal that melting candle David Frost made with the EU to get rid of the red tape that it caused and help them hire the foreign staff that they so desperately need. If he really wanted to help out small businesses, he'd do that. But he isn't. So the regime couldn't care less about small businesses. No, this is about redistributing more wealth to those that already have it. A sort of levelling up for those already at the top of the ladder. And there's also been a warning that council tax could rise by up to 120 quid a year for the average family home, with the Treasury apparently ready to allow local councils to put up their bills by up to 5% from April, which won't make much difference, as those same councils have been defunded by about 40% of the money they get from central government since the Tories came to power. Which is why they can't provide the services that you once took for granted. But the upside is that the hard of thought then blame the council for failing them rather than the government for failing the councils. It's a win-win-win, especially if it's not a Tory council. And the requisite nastiness is that any tax cuts announced by Jeremy Hunt last week are expected to be funded by cuts to benefits. I mean, we already have some of the worst levels of sick pay and benefits in the developed world. Our poor already have too little. But apparently having too little is not little enough for the millionaires in the cabinet. So ahead of his autumn statement next week, Jeremy Hunt has already announced a fresh welfare crackdown as part of his push to get people back into work. Free prescriptions and legal aid will be cut off for benefit claimants who are deemed fit to work and do not seek employment. And who decides if you are fit to work?
Under my leadership, the government's priorities are your priorities.
Yeah, this government. What could possibly go wrong? And the Chancellor and the PM are under huge pressure from the Tory right to deliver tax cuts in a bid to revive their party's dire poll ratings ahead of the general election. The Tory right. I mean, they really think that tax cuts for the rich and extra nastiness directed at the poor are going to bring enough people on side to push them over the line at the next election. Well, why not? Based on the last 60 years of Tory dominance of Parliament, I would not bet against this happening. According to the Times, Jeremy Hunt's got more than £20 billion of fiscal headroom for the autumn statement, which I think is complete nonsense. No, he doesn't. He's making it up. I looked at the Commons Library about how much the interest payments on the debt are costing us. And it says the following. Interest payments on the government's past borrowing are a relatively big cost for government. This year, the government's net debt interest spending was £111 billion. That's the payment of the interest on the money that we owe. £111 billion a year. That's about 10% of all government spending. I'll just pause, let that sink in. 1 in 10 of the £10 that you give in tax just goes on paying the interest on the money that has been racked up as debt by this government. But it's worse than that, because as the Commons Library states, in 2022 to 23, the government spent more on debt interest than in recent years because the interest paid on around a quarter of the government's debt is linked to inflation, which of course has accelerated during the year. Interest rates also rose, further increasing debt interest spending. And as far as I know, it's that financial expert Titchy suit size. That's quite hard. Titchy suit size, it's him that's responsible for a huge tract of government debt being subject to interest rate rises because he didn't insure against it, which is apparently a standard measure for a Chancellor to take. He forgot. The Chancellor is said to be considering slashing the rate of inheritance tax, which is currently charged at 40% to even 20%. Inheritance tax is only charged on estates worth more than 325 grand. And the number of estates that would be affected, it's less than 4%. Less than 4% of all the estates passed on are big enough to get hit by that tax. And that's the one that Tories are desperate to get down. Why? Because it covers a very small number of people who pay a massive amount. Them. The very people that are yelling for the tax to be cut, those harumphing old geezers on the backbenches of the Conservative Party who are desperate not to share their wealth about and want to keep it in the family when they go to the great gentleman's club Carvery in the sky. Speaking of broadcasters, the Bolsover from the Bolsover School in Chesterfield in Derbyshire, the Prime Minister said, well, the most important thing economically that's happened this week is that we met the pledge that I made to halve inflation. Liar! He said that's an important milestone because inflation is like a tax. Liar! But look, he said, this Conservative government has delivered. We are starting to ease the burden of the cost of living, which is lies. It's all lies. He didn't do anything to lower inflation. He just waited for it to happen and then took the credit. He might as well have said he caused the sun to rise in the east. And And a lower rate of inflation is not easing the burden on the cost of living. It's inflation. It's still going up from this new base level where you can't quite believe what the bill in the supermarket is. But they think that you're too stupid to realise that. What a way to run a country, eh?
Dreadful.
This is LBC with Nick Abbott.
Do you mind if I say a few words? Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate it. Information from next door. Nightclub's called the Wiggle Room. There's one in New York and one in Toronto. Can you believe that? The Wiggle Room. What a great name for a club. Are you dancing? No, I'm wiggling. Benny tweets, they're not throwing the good stuff too soon. This is the government throwing out all this nastiness in a desperate search for votes. I think that they're peaking too early. I can't imagine how they'll get worse than this. Taking benefits off, taking medicine off the sick in order to make them do the work that they can't do because they're sick. How could you possibly get lower than that? I mean, they're just chucking out all the best stuff first. You're supposed to leave the big hits for the end of the show. Anyway, Benny says they're not throwing the good stuff too soon. They're bombing all the good stuff now. While there's anger at the votes and the Supreme Court, he'll call a snap election before next year's budget after a cut on the autumn statement and a promise of inheritance tax cuts. Well, I don't know. I can't see them. I cannot see them holding an election until the polls turn around, or they just run up to the end of the time allotted, and they are forced to. That is assuming that we ever get to have another general election again. And at this point, I just would not be surprised if they, like I said, I've said this many times, I would not be surprised if they cancelled it for our safety. Highgate, hello, Claire.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hi. So, I just want to, I'm not well, so be gentle with me, my dear. Thank you. The thing about the woke, I know it's funny, when someone rings in like that and he's a bit questionless and he doesn't know what it means and all the rest of it. He's just responding to cheap slogans from the Tory right. I know that. But we've got an election coming up. The world is in a very, very dangerous place. And the more that people understand to cut through these cheap slogans, the better. So I just wanted to ask you, would it be better? I mean, he's never going to answer the question, what does woke mean? He won't, because he's not thought about it. He doesn't know about it.
They don't know what they mean. They just know that they're angry at some things that they read in the Mail or whatever paper. Yeah. That and the way that it's written makes them annoyed. It makes them, I don't know, what they think that people are going to come and take their stuff, or I don't know what their problem is really.
I don't think it's that. I think it's just people like to be smart, and they like to be provocative, and they like to be hip. If they think it's fun to be cynical, because they know that it winds other people up, they'll take that attitude without having a clue what they're talking about. I think it's just literally ignorance. But here's my thing. We're about to have an election next year. The world is in a very dangerous place, and things are very, very important. I think with something like that, it's such a key concept, this anti-woke thing that the Tories are splashing about. I would like you, instead of sort of amusing us all, and you do, with taking someone like that apart, sure, you do it brilliantly, but why not instead of asking him, what does it mean? Why don't you say to him, so woke means, quote unquote, being caring, which you said 20 minutes ago, you said that's what it means.
Yeah.
It means caring. So are you saying to me that you don't care about social justice, about people who are too poor or people who are disabled? Is that what you're saying? Because
yes. And they'll say yes, all of those things.
Well, I don't know. But the point is, if you come up with something very simple like that, when it comes to the next election, someone like Led by Donkeys, who I really admire, can put...
Where did you go?
The Tory party... I'm here. I haven't gone anywhere.
You disappeared for a moment there. You're like mid-sentence.
No, I'm still very much here. When it comes to the next election, Led by Donkeys, who I admire very much, can do billboards that say something like, the Tories have a minister for anti-woke. What they really mean is, we don't care, and we're making it very plain to the populace at large. We don't care. And we've actually got a minister to say we don't care. That's what anti-woke means.
A minister for not caring.
Yeah, it just well, that's what it means. I mean, all of us, he was going on about a vegan thing at Greg's, but what some of us worry about is animal welfare. So, get through to these people. You've been hooked line and sinker by cheap Tory slogans.
They're being used.
Clarify it, yeah.
Right.
I'm just saying clarify it, Nick, because you've got such a funny show. It's all wonderful, and you're brilliant in all your monologues and everything. But I just want you to. Well, no, there's no but against you. Just that sometimes I'd like you to just draw your horns in a bit on the being funny front when it comes to something that could really actually help people's general understanding, so it can be used against the Tories for the next election. And this anti-work thing is so strong, it's spread so far. So ignoramuses ring up your show and say, anti-work. What they're talking about. Sorry, Nick. You're killing me softly with your chat.
All right, thanks a lot, Claire. Cheers, my dear. That's way too much pressure. I can't do any of that. But she is right about one thing.
No one is ever safe on this hostile planet.
No one is ever safe on this hostile planet. It's a very, very dangerous place to be.
Oh, no.
Rachel in Ladbroke Grove says, how about we remove people's crutches and walking sticks and mobility scooters, and if we can get rid of ramps and drop paving and all lifts and parking spaces for the disabled, we will all be the richer for it, and the UK will prosper and thrive. And while we're at it, let's build more prisons and invest in more psychiatric units in readiness for the subsequent fallout of making people destitute and depressed. Yay and hooray. Life is going to be wonderful if we can just get these lazy people off their sofas, says Rachel in Ladbroke Grove. Let's have... I'll take these calls after the news. Otherwise, they'll be on and gone. Plus, I've got about 86,000 texts and emails to read out. God, look at all that. Oh, my God, it just goes on and on and on. Why can't these people leave me alone? Ronnie from Taunton says, Tories top taking tents from the homeless nastiness. NHS prescription... It's kind of written like bullet points. So I'll have to insert some words to make it make sense. The Tories top... taking the tents from the homeless nastiness with NHS prescriptions will no longer be free for those on benefits who the Tories deem well enough to work but who are not working and receiving welfare benefits. Right. That's that. Yeah, I know what you mean. I wonder if people at home do. Says Ronnie, and they're also scrapping inheritance tax and giving more tax breaks for the mega rich. Yeah. That's about right. Glenn from Pas de Calais says, Titchy suit size knows what the British people want, which is stopping the boats. I don't agree. I want a super yacht like some of the Tory PPE suppliers. Yes. I pay my taxes. Where's my super yacht? I couldn't provide any PPE for the NHS either. Where's my £100 million? Marnie in Glastonbury says, when stating that anyone choosing to coast on the hard work of taxpayers will lose their benefits, Jeremy Hunt seems to be unaware that very many people claiming benefits have been paying contributions right up to the point at which they make a claim. I worked from age 16 to my mid-50s before a brain injury forced me to give up work, something that I was loath to do. I should also like to mention that anyone who thinks that living on benefits is coasting clearly know nothing about the realities of living this way, says Marnie. Yeah. Nor do they know what coasting means. Coasting. I mean, it's funny, but it's not funny. There's nothing funny about it, but it is comical. The desperate flailings of a dying regime, trying to bring you on side by pointing at other people who are less well off than you and telling you that your problems are caused by those people. Wow. I mean, we've sunk pretty low, haven't we? I don't recognise this country anymore. I don't know about you.
Leading Britain's conversation. Nick Abbot. Alexa, send a comment to LBC.
This is absolute tosh.
Thanks, Nige. You're the best. 0345 6060 973. Before I go tonight, I want to give you a flavour of Suella Braverman's maiden speech in the House of Commons. Did you read that? Wow. It's quite old now, and it's educational and informative. and a little bit surprising. So I'll do that. But first, let's have this call in Tooting from a person called Jan. Jan.
Oh, hi, Nick. Hi, good evening.
Jan.
Yeah, so I before I come to my couple of points, I'd just like to add my voice to the ones who are praising your show, because...
Oh, not necessary, not necessary, Jan, but I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Yeah, okay, so I've been hooked ever since I heard your first show, and that was during the lockdown.
Oh, right. It seems like a lifetime ago. The lockdown.
Blew my mind.
Right. Blew your mind.
Yeah, well, perhaps you don't like the praise, but I've been hooked ever since.
Blew your mind.
Blew my mind.
Yes.
It was brilliant, just brilliant. Yeah, it was wow, I've never heard anything quite like it.
No. Anyway, thanks a lot, Jan.
So let me come to
the point.
A couple of points I had, because the figures I got today, I mean, it's great the way you're keeping our minds focused on all this fraud and everything, the government fraud. But what has kind of shocked me was that is this double talk, or I'm disappointed as well as where the Labour Party stands. But I'll come to that in a minute. First of all, the point I'll make is about, I was shocked when I read about the unions hitting out at Sunak, the tax cuts for the banks. It's another example of all these things that you're saying that they're doing. So the money that the government has lost by giving tax cuts to the banks is in the region of nearly 41 billion a year or something.
Yes, well, I wouldn't be remotely surprised. Yeah, they cut the bank levy, and but the cover that they gave themselves to do that was that they increased the business rates, but it meant that we lost a huge amount of money because of that. Yeah.
Yes, so something like 29. What's this got here? 29 million a week, according to the TUC have given these figures. So it's a bank surcharge or something, because Rishi Sunak, he actually cut the bank surcharge from 8% to 3%.
Well, he would, wouldn't he?
So all that, they say that the Treasury will miss out on 1.5 billion a year over the next 4 years. But it's a lot more than that, because there's other tax cuts that the bank's involved in. And so what really got me was when, for instance, I'm really disappointed. Well, I don't know what to think about Labour, because I've always voted Labour, but I'm really worried about them, because when they've mentioned about getting more money for the NHS to get it back on its feet, when Streeting was saying that, the shadow health secretary, he's saying all he's offering now to save the NHS is 1 billion, whereas their budget, I believe this must be the annual figure, is 180 billion. So the 1 billion that Labour's saying they will spend on getting the NHS back on its feet,
they can't possibly have said that. You must have that wrong. They said they were going to spend 1 billion, and that will fix the problems with the NHS. That is literally a sticking plaster.
Yeah, that's it. That's what Labour's health by Streeting has said.
Right. Well, I'm disappointed with them too, but we have to concentrate and not get distracted, Jan. We have two choices. Well, we have more than two, but there's only two parties. One of two parties is going to lead this country after the next general election, assuming we are allowed to have one. And that's either going to be the Conservatives or Labour. Neither are perfect. You're going to have to pick the least bad option.
But it's very worrying to hear them saying it now, that they're saying that the public, they can't afford, the voters can't afford punitive tax rises to fund a ailing national health. And they're saying, but there again, if they were to tax like the people, the ones who got money...
If they were to tax the super rich, then everybody would be just fine. Yes, they could just tax the super rich. So people who've got fortunes of over £10 million, for instance, if they tax them just to 2% wealth tax, then we would essentially solve all of the nation's monetary problems at a stroke. But they aren't going to do that, of course, because that's the donor class. And you don't want to interfere with the wealth of the donor class.
Oh God! But Nick, can I just quickly fit in another point?
Does it have a lot of numbers?
Nothing to do with this.
Has it got a lot of Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Has it got a lot of numbers in it?
No.
My head's spinning with numbers.
It's number one. It's about the Beatles. They hit that number one in the charts after 54 years. I got really excited when I heard about that. Their ballad, that latest Then and Now.
Yeah.
Now and Then.
With and Without You, whatever it's called. Yeah.
Yeah, Now and Then. The one with the Lennon AI voice, resurrected voice on it.
It's quite good.
It's gone to it's number one in the chart.
Number one in the chart is the number one single, and the last time I looked, the Rolling Stones was the number one album.
Rock and roll. Yes, it's great, isn't it? But I've been listening to the song again, and it's really very catching.
Yeah.
And seeing it with
like
the
a
video,
disease.
With the video, it's great, and I think Sir Paul is kind of blown.
Oh, don't call him that. Don't call him that.
He's had his socks blown off. It says it's blown off his socks.
Socks. Don't call him Sir Paul. That's just plain silly. He's a rock and roller. He's Paul, not Sir Paul. God, that's just... It's excruciating when they do that to rockers. I just can't stand it.
Yeah. They do it in the press, though, don't they?
Like
they all do
Sir Elton John. It's just daft. And anybody that, by the way, insists on having their title is an unqualified ass, in my opinion.
Because Mick Jagger, he doesn't... Yeah,
Sir Mick.
I don't think they're not asking to be called Sir, are they? They are just...
I don't know. I mean, when somebody is a rocker and on the poster to their gig, it's Sir whoever it is, then I would assume that they are insisting on that title. And if that is the case, then they are an unqualified ass.
Oh, yeah. Don't you think it's amazing, though? That's a record. They've beaten the record that... What's her name? I can't remember.
Sandy Shaw.
No, not Sandy Shaw, the one who did Wuthering Heights.
Oh, Kate Bush.
She had a number one with something recently.
And that was Running Up That Hill.
Years. Yeah, Running Up the Hill. That was 30 years. But the Beatles, this is now after 54 years. They've got back into the number one in the chart.
Yeah, and it sounds and smells fresh as a daisy. It does.
Yeah, I think it's great. I mean,
I think the son of the chap that produced all of their records, whose name escapes me.
Oh yeah, that's Murray or something, isn't it? Murray.
Who?
His surname's Murray. The one who. Oh no, sorry, no, that's the one who did the film. He did the video that goes with this Now and Then.
No, I'm not talking about that now. I'm talking about the red and the blue best of. You know, the double album.
Red and blue. Yeah, the
double albums. One's called the red album, one's called the blue album.
Oh yeah.
He's what's the name of the guy that produced all their music?
It's
Yeah. It's yeah, that guy. Anyway, his son has re-edited and reproduced their material, and it's a revelation. Actually, it's like they've taken the filter off. It's like they're taking the screen off, and you can hear it clearly now. If you compare and contrast, if you do streaming, then you can just bounce from one to the other and see what the old original sounded like, and the new production. See what that sounds like, and the new production is just way better. Apart from anything else, the vocals on some of the Beatles tracks were. They were playing around with stereo, of course, and they put all the vocals on one side, which just sounds weird to our ears. We got two ears, and the vocals should be in the middle where we're used to hearing it, particularly if you listen to it on headphones. It just really freaks you out, man. So he's sort of fixed that problem, and he's just cleaned the whole thing up, and it's a marvellous thing, Jan. I think you'll love it.
Yeah, I've got to tune into it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's Peter Jackson, isn't it?
No, that's the guy who directed the Lord of the Rings thing. So he did the Apple, the Get Back thing. No, I'm talking about the producer of the original Beatles material.
Oh, okay.
How can I not remember that guy's name? He's called the Fifth Beatle. You know who I mean? Of course.
The Fifth Beatle.
Yeah. I want you to look that up and have a full report on my desk first thing in the morning, Jan. George Martin. Correctamundo.
George Martin, that's it. Yeah, George Martin, yeah.
Oh, yeah, now you say it like you knew it all along. Who are you kidding, Jan? Oh, yeah, George Martin. Yeah, that's what I was just about to say that. Yeah. Sure, yeah. All right, well, you've got a lot of work to do, Jan.
Yes.
I'll not keep you for another single solitary second. Cheers, my dear. 0345 6060 973. James in Thaden Boys texts, Dear Nick, when should I put my Christmas tree up? I understand you have uncompromising views on the subject and I don't want to get on the wrong side of you. All the best. James, go for it. You're obviously thinking about it, so just do it.
Nick Abbott. Call 0345 6060 973. Tweet at LBC. Text 84850.
Everything is going extremely well.
yeah, you bet it is. 0345 6060 973. Hagar in Old Felixstowe says, so we got Iffy Rishi, Dizzy Lizzie, and now Dodgy Dave has made a comeback. I wonder what Comrade Dennis Skinner would have to say. Well, he'd probably say something not funny and then hug himself with delight for about a half an hour. Is that about right? Great Yarmouth. Hello, Fran.
Hello, Nick.
Fran.
It's the first time I've ever listened to your programme.
Oh, no.
I've really got it taken with it.
Oh, that's nice to hear.
We have two health trusts up here.
Yes.
One of them has promoted itself with an outside company to tell everybody how wonderful they are. It costs £300,000.
Wow.
We do. Yeah, we've also got another hospital up King's Lynn, which needs to be rebuilt. They also approached this same company to tell everybody how wonderful they are, and that cost £800,000. So between the two trusts, they've spent £1 million.
1.1 million by my maths.
Yeah, between the two trusts.
Wow, at least they're not wasting that money. At least
poverty, and yet they're doing this.
Yeah, at least they're not wasting that money, Fran.
I know. It's heartbreaking, really.
It is, yes. It's funny, but it's not funny at all because it's happening to us.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for the bad news, Fran.
Okay. All the best.
Cheers, my dear. Ta-da. 0345 6060 973. Lou in Suffolk says, this is valuable information. A little while ago, somebody said that there were 3 sheets to the wind.
Booze.
And I didn't, I know it's like a sailing term, but I didn't really know what it meant. And Lou in Suffolk does. He said, to be 3 sheets to the wind is to be drunk. The sheet is the line that controls the sails on a ship. Is it? The sheet? The sheet isn't the sail. The sheet is the line that controls the sails. Well, that's confusing. He says if the line is not secured, the sail flops in the wind and the ship loses headway and control. If all 3 sails are loose, the ship is out of control.
Warning, warning.
Well, that makes sense. Apart from the sheet is the line part. Pete tweets, Nick, what's better now than it was 13 years ago? Broadband speed. That's it, says Peter. Yeah, that is it, yeah. Broadband speed. Which we have to thank Rishi Sunak for.
Thank you.
Yeah, just like we have to thank him for cutting inflation. I cannot believe that he comes out with that stuff in every single interview. Every single interview. And interviewers just sit there and they nod, say, yes, you cut inflation. Well done. Nobody has the wherewithal to ask him how he thinks he's done that. Because he wouldn't have an answer. I would guess that he has an answer that has been prepared beforehand and probably delivered to him on a card in case it comes up in the vanishingly unlikely prospect that an interviewer will ask him a decent blooming question. But no, I have not heard an explanation that's dropped from his lips as to how he personally has secured a drop in inflation. And how that drop in inflation is now making the cost of living crisis easier. Of course it blooming well isn't. Prices aren't going down, they're just going up less quickly. But nobody says this to him. I bet he cannot believe that he's getting away with it. I bet he cannot believe either that or he's just been so cosseted his entire life. He's never heard the word no in his entire perfumed life. And no one has ever had the temerity to question him, to quiz him about anything at all. That's why he gets so tetchy when somebody does throw an underarm question at him. He starts bouncing up and down in his seat and he just can't wait to get away from these awful people. I can't believe he's getting away with it, never mind about what he thinks. We were talking about gaming earlier on, and there's several on that subject. Mitch texts, I am also a gamer. I'm playing Euro Truck Simulator while listening. I'm driving 15 tons of chlorine from Southampton to Luxembourg, all from the comfort of my room, says Mitch. Well, I didn't believe that there was a video game called, what was it called? The Waffensquirter 9000? Or something like that, where people hosed gunk off walls. That's an actual video game. I swear. Hey, kids, get your faces out of your screens and pay attention. Real life is happening all around you. It reminds me of that South Park episode where all the kids were playing a video game where aliens were invading. Meanwhile, behind them, actual aliens were invading. And then here we are. I mean, it's not too much of too much of a joke, really. It's real life. This text says, when are they going to make extreme ironing for a PlayStation? It'll be great in virtual reality. Yeah, exactly. And if they do make it, I bet it'll be a runaway hit. Ashley from Northampton says, forget Power Wash Simulator, which is the game that I was referring to. Wait till you see Farming Simulator. Incredible, says Ashley. Incredible? You put your hand up where? This text says, G'day, Nick. I hope you're well. The video game seems to be shadowing a game that was on The Simpsons. That game was a virtual lawn mowing game, so art following reality yet again. There's too many to actually get through before the end of the show, and some of them are really long. Chris the Cabbie says, nothing to do with what you're talking about, but I thought I needed to tell somebody what just happened in my black cab. I took a couple of people to Heathrow from Chelsea, but we hit loads of traffic, so it took about 2 hours. The couple in the back were on edge because they thought they were going to miss their plane. As we were arriving, I asked the man what terminal he wanted, to which he proceeded to get the tickets out of the bag to find out. As he did, his face dropped when he when he realised they were flying from Gatwick, not Heathrow.
Oh, no.
He then had to tell the lady, who burst into tears and started hitting him. And then he started to cry. I didn't know what to do. I then had to ask him for 68 quid for the fare. They both got out and he loaded up the luggage on a trolley. I'm not sure what the guy did for his next move, but I wish him all the best. That happened to me. I remember it clearly. It was such a beautiful day, and I'm late for everything. Well, I used to be. I changed. But that's a longer story, so I'll skip that part. But I used to be late for everything. But on this particular day, I was flying out to, I can't remember, let's say Amsterdam. And I was in time. The plane was, it was like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. And I got up and I was ready and I had packed the previous night and I was out the door and I thought, wow, this is going really, really well. And it was a beautiful day, blue skies and the sun was shining and I was making such excellent time. I thought, blimey, I'm going to be in Luton before I know it. I'm going to have so much time in Luton Airport that I'm going to get bored wandering around their shops, I thought. And I was the roads were clear. There was no hold-ups, and it's like everything was a green light. And I was just going through, and it was just the most remarkable thing for me, because normally I'm running up to the desk at the airport, hoping that they haven't closed it yet. And if they have closed it, that I can talk them round and be the last person on, and I'm actually, hauling my luggage with me because it's too late to go in the hold. That's my usual trick. And I thought, this day is going so well, I cannot believe it. I'm going to get to Luton in such great time. And then I confidently was driving along and I passed a sign that said, "Welcome to Essex." And I thought, oh no. I'm driving to Stansted. But I'm leaving from Luton. Damn it! and then the dark clouds rolled in. Not for anybody else, just for me. And misery was the order of the day. And it was all going so well. Oh, well, never mind. You know me. I never complain.
Whinging and whining and moaning.
Let's end with the Suella Braverman's maiden speech. June 2015. I'll edit it for you, but this is the it of it. She starts, "I feel a real sense of humility speaking after the Honourable Member for Islington North, Jeremy Corbyn."
What?
Yeah. "A sense of humility speaking after Jeremy Corbyn," she said, "who gave an accomplished speech in the best traditions of this house. I congratulate him." Jeremy Corbyn. She says, "On a cold February morning in 1968, a young man, not yet 21, stepped off a plane at Heathrow Airport, nervously folding away his one-way ticket from Kenya. He had no family, no friends, and was clutching only his most valuable possession, his British passport. His homeland was in political turmoil. Kenya had kicked him out for being British. My father never returned. He made his life here in Britain, starting on the shop floor of a paint factory. My mother, recruited by the NHS in Mauritius as a girl of 18, passed her 45th year of service last year. My family had nothing but hopes and dedication. They were so proud to be British and so proud to make our country even better. If I succeeded in making some small contribution during my time in this place, the House of Commons, it will reflect only a fraction of my gratitude to this country for the abundance of education, culture and traditions that have made Britain great, for the tolerance and fellowship of the British people, and for the opportunity and liberty that we all enjoy." Quick reminder, this is Suella Braverman. She said, "It's a stroke of luck to be born British, and my indebtedness goes to the heart of why I am Conservative. Our party rewards endeavour, enables compassion, and liberates people from the shackles of the state. Our party says it doesn't matter where you start, you can make your life and that of others better by taking responsibility and through self-empowerment and generosity." I will do all I can to serve the people of Fareham with humility, integrity and warmth. Well, I don't know what happened to her between 2015 and now, but it must have been really bad. 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 Really bad.